So we got to sit.
Personal letter, I'm just confused. I thought direct mail, what's the difference between personal letter and direct mail?
Such a good question. I'm going to answer it at length. Okay, I'm going to get to that in great detail. If I don't answer your question 100%, you get back to me. But I'm going to go into what a personal letter is compared to direct mail. Phone-a-thon is only at 9%. Phone-a-thon is not a bunch of good folks in the basement with their cell phones. Phone-a-thon is a bunch of folks that have been trained, know how to close. They're calling a whole bunch of folks. And much like the personal letter, in both of these cases, you don't have to know the person you're contacting. If the executive director of an organization sends out a personal letter to everybody that's on the list, even though he may not or she may not know each individual, the connection still works. The connection still works. The last two areas are surprisingly where we often spend most of our time. I know, like I said, we just had our big special event that was rained out. We spent months working on it. Months working on it. And yet the annual effectiveness on most special events, as it is with most direct mail, is 1/3 of 1%. And everybody says, well, last year our dinner, we made $17,812.14. Good for you. I'm glad for that. The fact of the matter is, did you cost it? Oh, certainly. We know what the dinner cost and how much it cost to print the tickets. No, 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 no. Did you cost it? How much did your volunteers cost? How much time did it take you? And how much time is your time worth? And by the way, did you factor in that to decay factor? What's the decay factor? The decay factor means that when folks go to one event and they spend their monies, they feel they have given to you no matter what it cost. And it takes a time to recover that donor so that they will be ready for another event. When we plan special events for our nonprofit, we plan events that deal with different constituencies. So Bill was talking about the big dinner we did, which was extremely successful this year. That brings in one particular type of donor. The special event that got rained out was a family event for families with children. Brings in another kind of donor. We have another event that's coming up that's going to bring in another kind of donor. Because I know that the folks that went to that dinner, as generous as they were and are, now feel they have given to Jake's Place. And if I was immediately to go after them in any other fashion, it is their commonly held belief, which I understand fully, I just made a gift to those people. I made to that dinner, don't you remember? That's what the decay factor is. So the fact of the matter is that special events that we think were successful often are never costed properly and cost us a lot more money than we may ever imagine. I think he's first and then your second part. Yes?
So if you're having events for specific audiences, it sounds like you're doing.
Yeah.
That's to address the K factor we're talking about.
Right.
Then my question is, if it's still 0.33%, why are you even bothering with the special?
Now this is the average overall, and it's my belief, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, that I can overcome that average. You know, just like direct mail overall, 1/3 of 1% effective. And, you know, I just believe that even at direct mail, which I don't ever do, I think I could. I've had clients hire me and I say, I don't do direct mail. They say, we still want you to write a direct mail letter for us. I believe that if I write a good enough letter, I'll do better than 1/3 of 1%.
So what's your secondary aim? It's not to, I mean.
Oh, my secondary aim, oh, that's a very good question, and we were going to cover it, but I'll cover it now, is I believe in fundraiser first, fundraiser second. My job is to build support for the organization. How do I do that? I get people's names, address, telephone numbers, emails. I tell them about our organization, and I expect that that's how I'm going to build support. You had a question, Bart.
So on the fundraiser thing, what you're saying is a special event might be a setup for a personal ask.
And I don't tell the story anymore, but I used to tell it as part of this presentation, is that for many years I was chair of a theater where my daughter's on the stage, and the theater where she got her start. I was the chairman of the board, and we used to do what they called the Top Hat Gala every year. And this was an event where people came to it was in black tie, and people came to the theater for a special performance of whatever the top show was that year, and was just reserved for them. They came there after they had dinner at one of the sponsors' house. One of the board members like me would have the dinner for them. We would took some people that had money would cater a very fancy dinner. And then after that dinner, after the show, rather, then they would go someplace really nice, like one year we went to the aquarium for dancing and a big band. One year we went to the Franklin Institute, unusual places. And what we charged for that the last time we did one was $79. And people would say, you can't make money. I said, no, as a matter of fact, we just clear our expenses. But those people will be asked later in the year. Point was not to get money. What was to build friends for that organization, and it worked.
Yeah, because the point I was going to make is that if you're right in that decay factor, you called it?
Decay, D-E-C-A-Y, decay.
Yeah, decay factor. Because I've recently spoken at some banquets where they got all their donors there, and the ask was like, what they basically got of them was like $100.
Yeah.
And so they basically, the big donor shows up, gives $100, but by your theory, then they say, well, I just gave you
I did my thing.
And so it's going to be a long time before I'm going to give again.
Right. Well, I'm not saying everybody would, but many people respond that way.
So you don't want to burn your ask.
You burned your ask, and if these are really their big, if they're really their big donors and they ask for $100, they blew it already.
Right.
You know, I just had a guy that we're romancing right now as a possible donor. I went to see him at his factory the other day with my wife. And he says to me, before we even talked anything, he said, you know, don't ask me for $500. And I said, Morris, there's no way I'm going to ask you for $500. I didn't ask him for anything. I'm just still kind of in the talking stages right now. But when I ask him, there's no way I'm asking Morris for $500. I'd be out of my mind. You know, after we get in his M version 7 BMW coupe, and no way I'm asking this guy for $500. You know, not going to happen. This is where the money comes from, and you got to look at Pac-Man right here, because he's pretty impressive. These are individuals, $227 billion given away by individuals. This is not people of wealth. They're in there, but they're a small percentage, very small percentage. They give away most of the money. Now look at the other categories. Look at corporations at only $14 billion. Why do we keep thinking that businesses should be giving us money? I don't get that. Businesses are in the process of making more money for the people that own the businesses and their shareholders. That's their.
Make sure you hear about it every now and then.
Well, that one, that's because the only time they give away money when they can get some free advertising out of it. Fact of the matter is, businesses are in the business of making money, not giving it away. We got to stop thinking we should be going there looking for money, because they don't generally give money away unless they can get a big bang for that buck. Go to foundations, where we spend so much time and so much effort. And by the way, you did not hear me say you should not go after foundations. I never said that, and I won't say it. But I will say you need to place some proportionality at, because foundations are only giving away $38.4 billion. And the last year that we had, 2009, we have the charts for. Bill and I, we wrote 40, didn't we write 42 foundations for Jake's Place? 42 foundations. Supposedly we know how to do this. Wrote the right kind of inquiry letter. Got one response. One response. And then last we come to the gift that doesn't keep on giving. That's bequest. You can't go to someone who's passed on and ask them to pass on again, so because you really liked their gift last year. But it's the people that gave to you in life that give to you when they pass on. And I am a disaster when it comes to mathematics, but even I can add these two together and say, oh my goodness, Jim, that's $250 billion being given away out of regular folks' pockets. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
So,
go ahead.
It's a really pedantic question. Where would corporate matching be in a chart like that?
In there, right where you see it, in corporations.
So an individual's match.
Right, yeah. The question was, where's corporate matching? It's in the corporations thing.
So to a certain extent, corporations is even more
less.
inflated there.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Excuse
Yeah.
I'm not catching on with the question.
So the corporate matching, so if I give 20 billion, or if I gave 14.1 billion last year and my corporation matched my money just because that's the employee policy, that match would be in that corporation bucket.
There's about 400 or 500 corporations in the United States that match any gift from any employee. And I'm trying to think of who publishes that book. I'll try and find that out for you. My wife knows off the top of her head, I think. Anyhow, that matching gifts booklet, and if you ever do an annual campaign, or a large campaign rather, you should definitely have a copy of that booklet. It's inexpensive or free, I can't remember which. But so that means if you get a gift, if you get a donor that's like say an Alcoa employee, Alcoa will match their dollars. So they give you 20 bucks, Alcoa gives you 20 bucks.
Jim?
Yeah.
The previous two screens, direct mail, do you ever use that as just a way to keep in front of people?
No. I use that for newsletters. That's the only time I ever use direct mail. And we'll talk about that in some depth. This is where the money went. Guess what, guys? You got it. 33% of all the monies given away were given to faith-based organizations. It had been as low as 31%, and last year, when the economy was in 2008, when it was terribly in the dumper, was at 35% because people suddenly rediscovered God when they had no money. Still didn't go down as low. It's at 33%. There's nothing to sneeze at. Religion fell less than 1%, actually. I'm sorry. I guess it was around 34% then. You see you can read in your book where the changes that we saw there. Education historically comes in as second place. You see foundations there, and people wonder what are foundations, and they are mostly community foundations. Does everybody know what a community foundation is? Like the Philadelphia Foundation is a community foundation? Yeah. Community foundation says that anybody can waltz in the door and say, here's my $100, I'd like to start a fund. You know, but let's think about that a little. I have a community foundation fund for the kids in Camden. It's very easy to start. You don't need a lot of money. But when you go into this community foundation with your $100 and you say, I'd like to start a fund for crippled children, and they say, thank you very much, we'll take your $100, we'll add that to the other funds that we have for crippled children, and every year we'll make a gift to crippled children in your name. Thank you so much. And that's a wonderful thing. But if you go into the Philadelphia Foundation with your $100 in hand, the thing that strikes me is that within 3 blocks of the Philadelphia Foundation down in the PSFS building, there's 25 organizations that deal with crippled children. And I'm not exaggerating at all. So why didn't they ask this person? And like I said, they'll tell you they did, but they never did. They never did. We don't do a good job of asking. It's not the fact that people won't be generous, we just don't do a good job of asking. This just always happens late in the day. It starts to advance itself. I don't know what that is. The other things are pretty much, you know, it's always the other guy that you think gets the money. You know, if you go to somebody that's at, you know, United Way, which is a public and society, they say if it wasn't for all those people in the tutus getting money, we'd be doing fine. It's always the other guy that seems to be doing better than you are, you know? Reality is faith-based organizations get most of the money.